Hello, this is Sharon Fisher from Teledyne ISCO, and we would like to welcome you today to today's webinar, Flowlink Cipher GO. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you of a few items. This webinar will be offered to you later, so you will be receiving an email providing a link to the webinar and also a copy of the slides. If you happen to experience issues during the webinar, please leave the webinar and rejoin. This oftentimes clears those issues. Today, we are very lucky to be joined by Dennis McGinnis. Dennis is our TWDI product specialist, and he has a lot to share with us today. So with that, Dennis, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining today. I'm going to go over the new Flowlink Cipher GO software that we've developed. We developed this in mind for the DuraTracker and DuraTracker Ex. Basically, what this program is going to allow you to do is streamline your ability to deploy these meters out in the field, as well as maintain them on follow-up visits to the site to be able to download the data, view it while you're on site, and make any corrections as needed. The PowerPoint is going to cover all the screens. I basically set it up to show you all the screens and all the different tools that Cipher GO brings to the table. I am going to do a small demonstration at the end of the presentation. Unfortunately, the meter I have doesn't have a lot of data in it. It's something I grabbed off the shelf. So a lot of the screens here in the PowerPoint do have some data, so it's going to be a little more impressive to look at. With that being said, let's talk about the purpose of it. So the Cipher GO, again, is made for the DuraTracker and DuraTracker Ex. It is not legacy compatible with other meters. So this is not going to work with the 2100s or the signatures. It is only for the DuraTracker and DuraTracker Ex at this time. Newer meters as we develop are going to be compatible with Cipher GO though. So anything from the DuraTracker on will be supported with Cipher GO, but anything before the DuraTracker line is not going to be supported. Some more good news about the software though is it's free. It is free to download from our website. So if you go to our ISCO software download and where you download your firmware, there's a location there to click on to get Cipher GO downloaded. Now we do have a little form there for you to fill out your name and company name, things like that for contact information. But other than that, once you click on that, it downloads the software and you're good to go. Currently, Cipher GO is PC compatible only. It is being developed to work with your cell phones and portable tablets. That's in development as we speak, but for now, it's just going to be PC compatible. So look for that in the future. With the cell phone and the tablets, you're going to be able to do the Bluetooth connection or via a cell IP address connection. Currently with the laptop, however, you do have the USB available as well. So on the Connect screen, you'll have a choice between your Bluetooth and cellular and USB. Again, with a portable device like a cell phone or tablet, you're only going to use the Bluetooth or your cellular connection on those devices. But because you're using a laptop, you have the USB option to use the USB-A or USB-B connector that plugs into the front of the DuraTracker. When you very first connect to Flowlink, get Cipher GO, you're going to get a screen that comes up and it's going to talk about everything in the meter as far as its information, like site name. You can sync the time and date via the synchronize button. That's going to actually be tied to what your laptop's set for. So just like Flowlink, you'll have the system time, you hit the synchronize, and it'll match those up. And of course, you can pick your time zone. Now, we're going to have your longitude, latitude information available, just like we do with Flowlink. However, just to be clear, this is not uploaded to Flowlink Cipher or Flowlink Pro if you're still using Pro. This is just information to have within the data, so you can, when you get back to the office, you can unplug the information out or plug in the information from this screen into your Cipher, Flowlink Cipher website to get it mapped. So it's really just kind of a note location, just like Flowlink is for its location information. Once you do get connected and you move from the site in the lower left-hand corner and we move over to the configure option in the lower right, now what you'll have is options to set up everything you need to get the meter running in the field. By clicking on the sensor scan, here you can click on the scan sensors at the bottom and it will move it to the top of the list up above where it says available sensors. Now again, with the DuraTracker, we can have up to 4 sensors supported. There are 2 ports on the front of the DuraTracker that are native for TiNet devices. However, we can still use the Y cable for each one of those ports to add 2 devices per port. So that gives you a total of 4. Once your sensor is scanned in, you'll have the availability to go ahead and double check all your settings. So by clicking on each one of the listed settings, whether the distance or the level or the air temperature, here you can see I can actually pick the units of measure for my distance and my units of measure for my level measurement. I'm also able to do my level calibration here and see what my current reading is. Now this particular screenshot is a unit offline, but I will have a meter here in my demonstration that will show this. I can also type in any blanking distances to basically cut off any noise that may be reflected from echoes coming back to the ultrasonic. I can change the temperature, units of measure, as well as the ultrasonic information. I can enable that, disable it from here. So all that connectivity is listed right here under the configure sensors parameter. We have the ability to view diagnostics. So here you can see in the diagnostic screen, I have my ultrasonic being fired, and I have my minimum blanking distance here with this line. So anything below this is going to filter off that noise. So you can see I do have quite a bit of noise coming in on the low end, which is typical. And so my minimum blanking distance is going to go ahead and cut that off there and get that out of the range of being seen. My maximum is way out here. If I did have some echoes going on, I could move that down and cut those off as well. But what's nice about the diagnostics being right here in the tools, I can open that up while I'm on site and verify that everything looks good and it's operating properly. It's a nice troubleshooting tool available to you right there on site. You'll also be able to set up your flow rate measurements. In here, I can set up my units of measure. If I'm going to have a zero on error, any type of those cutoffs I want to put in here. Also, the type of flow conversion I'm doing. In this example, I'm using an ultrasonic. So I'm just had this set up for a partial flume, a 6-inch partial flume in this example. And I'm going to choose which sensor of the possible 4 sensors I could have hooked up. I can choose which sensor I want for this particular flow rate. Now I can have multiple flow rates. As I have multiple sensors, I can have multiple flow rates. So I'd have a flow rate A, a B, and C. And then I could set up each one of those to be what I want that level information to be tied to. The total flow screen, much like the flow rate, I'm just going ahead and set up what I want my input, or the flow rate I had the level for the 310 ultrasonic sensor. Here for this total flow, I can choose which flow rate I want to have tied to it. So I have multiple flow rates, I can have multiple total flows. So I could have flow rate 2 be hooked up to flow rate A, which would be maybe an area velocity sensor, flow rate 3 being a flow rate, or I'm sorry, total flow 3 being flow rate B, which could be a laser sensor. So I can have multiple flow rates, and therefore I can have multiple total flows or volumes to be set up. In that range, I can also type in what kind of units I want, again, which flow rate I'm using to use that, and how I want this totalized. The data storage option allows me to click on any number of data sets I want to record. When I hit the storage settings, I pull up this screen here. And here I can go ahead and tell it how often I want those measurements to be read. So here it's storing here at 15 minutes. If I wanted a secondary storage rate, I could set that up down here along with an equation that would be tied to that. The modem configuration screen allows us to set up everything that has to do with the modem inside the meter. So in this case, if I have a Verizon modem, if I have a GSM modem for like AT&T or T-Mobile. I could use other here. The port is, again, the incoming port in case I want to make a Flowlink connection to call into it. I would put the APN for my network, in this case Verizon. I would put my Verizon APN in this location. And like most setups, if you have a security issue or security level for Verizon or your cell account, sometimes you can use username and password options, so we do support that. The information here actually tells me more about the modem itself. So I have its IP address, its phone number, as well as its signal strength of where I'm at right now at this time. Down below, I can set up a time window like we always have in the past, so the modem's not on 24 hours a day. I can set up an equation here to say turn on between a certain time of day, like between 9 or 10, or possibly turn on during an event. If I have an overflow condition, I want my modem to come on, knowing that I'm going to want to call into it and check some live readings or download some data immediately. So that's what that option is there. And then the SMS option at the bottom. So the DuraTracker is very unique in the fact that it has the ability to check for incoming SMS messages. This allows you to turn the DuraTracker's Bluetooth on if you want to send it a message, or you can tell it to go ahead and open up its window. You're going to be calling it in the next hour. So in this case, if you texted it for a status and it was 12:30 at the top of the hour, in this case, it's going to check to see if there's any text messages waiting for it. In this case, there was one that I sent at 12:30. So at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock, it's going to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn on for 20 minutes and stay on for 20 minutes. Now I know back at my office, 1 o'clock comes around because I sent the text at 12:30. 1 o'clock comes around, I can set my timer. Okay, I now know my modem has logged in, found my text message, and is now turned on for 20 minutes to allow me to use its static IP address here to call it. So this is, again, very unique with the DuraTracker. Oh, and that doesn't have to be a static IP. In this case, I have one, but it doesn't have to be. It could. That's what's very also nice about having the SMS, is having this set up allows you to call the site with a dynamic IP. At the top of the hour, this will send a text message back to you telling you what its dynamic IP address, or static, whatever the case may be, and it will stay on for 20 minutes to allow you to use that IP address that's in your text message to call in to the meter, make a connection, and you can do that with Cipher GO, or you can do it with Flowlink. But Cipher GO also is going to have the ability on that front screen, you just choose cellular instead, put that IP address in there, and you can make a connection with your Cipher GO from the office and log into your DuraTracker. The next one we're going to talk about is the modem data push. This is the screen that allows you to push your data to Flowlink Cipher or Flowlink Pro if you're still using that. You can tell how often you want it to push in, and you have the ability to set up a secondary push rate, meaning I want it to push every hour, but if my storm arrives and my flow rates go up, then I want to go ahead and push my data every 15 minutes. When the storm goes away, it stops pushing every 15 minutes and goes back to 1 hour in this example. So that's what the data push at the top is for. The IP listener information below, this is the information where you're going to send the IP address for your Flowlink Pro or Flowlink Cipher and its port. So that information is provided to you when you have your Flowlink Cipher account set up. You'll put that IP address in there, its port information, and then on that hour, that is where it will push that data to your server. And finally, at the bottom, we've added a manual push with the DuraTracker. This is a very nice tool to use. It allows you to go ahead and pick the date range of data you want pushed up. So you can use these little calendars here, put your date range in here. I just have a particular day set up. You hit the manual push. In the bottom window, it'll give you a little status of what it's doing, showing that it's getting on the network. It's pushing the data, it was successful, and it disconnects. So this is a nice way of testing when you're out in the field. If you want to get the data pushed up to the server right away, you can just come here under your modem data push setup and hit the manual data push, and it will force a push up to the meter or up to the server. Now, with that being said, I do want to point out, if you don't have the need to log into the meter, you still can always pull the batteries out of the meter and putting them back in. Whenever you do a power cycle like that, that will make the DuraTracker force a push to the server. But in the old days, we had to do that with the 2100s. We've made this screen so you don't have to do that. You don't have to go through the troublesome of pulling a battery out and putting it back in. And while you still can, this is a better tool to do your manual push, because also you have the ability to put in the time range that you want pushed up, versus the other one, it just pushes everything when you power cycle it back in. And finally, on that last screen for the configuration, we have alarms. Now, the DuraTracker has the ability to send alarms directly via its modem. So while it does have the ability to push the data to Flowlink Cipher, and Cipher doing those alarms at the Cipher level, in some cases, maybe you're not using Cipher, or you have a need to have that alarm out faster. So what we can do here is, under the alarm conditions here, I can set up my equation to say, okay, if I have an overflow condition, a CSO condition, or something that I want to be triggered, I have a low battery, whatever is being recorded can be triggered on. I can set that equation up in here, and then I can choose my alarm type. Now, my alarm types are either SMS, which is a text message, and I can send that out to 5 different messages, or 5 different people, contacts. The other one is a server alarm. Now, the server alarm still supports Flowlink Pro, so we do have our notification group still in there for those of you who are still using Flowlink Pro. But as you all know, Flowlink Pro is being phased out. And so for Cipher, how it works is, if I have a trigger that I want that data pushed to Cipher immediately when this CSO condition happens, I can put that CSO condition here, and for the type, I choose server. When that condition happens, it will force a push. That forced push now sends data to Cipher, and then Cipher, I can set up alarms as many as I want via email or text. I don't have that 5 text limitation like I do if I do an SMS alarm here. With the server, I have unlimited amount of texts I can contact, an unlimited number of emails. So because Cipher can only trigger based upon incoming data though, if my push is only every hour and my condition hits 15 minutes after the hour, that data is not going to be able to be triggered on in Cipher until the top of the next hour, when that data is pushed in and Cipher can see that it happened. So instead of waiting for 45 minutes to get those triggers from Cipher, here I can set the trigger up in the meter to say, yeah, go ahead and push every hour. But if I have server set here for the alarm type, it's going to push every hour, and then, or faster, whenever this condition is met, it'll push immediately when that condition is met. So even if I'm only pushing every 12 hours to Cipher, this is an override. This allows you to trigger quicker than your 12-hour push, because this condition appeared and I had my alarm condition set for server. Cipher gets that information right away, and then it can trigger right away because it's not waiting for that scheduled push. It's getting the push this way. Now, you can have up to 4 different alarm conditions, meaning I could set up one for server here, and I could set the exact same conditions under my alarm 2 for SMS and put my 5 text messages in if I saw fit. Also, this allows me to have up 4 different conditions as well. Possibly have a overflow condition, CSO, or I can do a low battery condition for another alarm. So the idea here is it gives you flexibility, up to 4 different alarms, up to 4 different ways of sending that information out, being SMS or server, and allows you to have a number of different triggers. All right, the next section we're going to talk about is the analysis section. So the bottom section in the screen, when you click on the analysis, it gives you a list of different tools. So to recap, the configure really is setting up the meter to work in the field. You know, what's your data storage going to be? What is your flow rate set up for? What kind of primary device? What kind of units of measure? All that, you know, as far as setting up the modem and how often it's going to push, that is your configure. The analysis is really, once you're on site, possibly you just deployed it and you want to make sure everything's working well, or on return visits, you can come to the analysis screen, and here I can look at everything from live data all the way down to my exporting the data. So let's start off with the live data screen. Clicking on that gives you what you would typically see under your measurement screen of Flowlink. It gives you your live data readings of what you choose. Now you can choose up to 3. Now this is a 310 level sensor, so there's not much more to look at, but I went ahead and grabbed level and flow rate. If I use the cogwheel in the upper right-hand corner, I can get a list of all the different parameters to put up in there, and I can show you that on our live demonstration when this PowerPoint's over, but that's what the cogwheel does. It allows me to set up to 3 real-time measurements on the screen. Retrieving the stored data. So the meter has the data in it. With the laptop, I have the ability to bring that data into my database on my laptop. And by doing this retrieve data option, I have different options to choose from on what date ranges. So I can do since the last time it was interrogated, whether that was me or somebody else. There's a flag set in the meter every time it's interrogated. So I can just interrogate any new data. I can choose since, which will give me a date range, or before, which will stop on the date I pick. And then I can just choose a date range specifically from this time to this time, or I can pick everything that's in the meter. So lots of choices on how to get it down. Once that data is downloaded, I can go and hit the view stored data option. What that does, it can bring up a graph, and I can pick up to 3 parameters to view. And here, I wanted to show you this on this screen because this has got a really nice historical data for you to view. You can see I've got a level, a velocity, and a flow rate all on the screen. Again, you're out in the field. You want to make sure everything looks good before you leave. I can download last week's data, so I can pop it in there and make sure, yep, everything's been working okay, or maybe I've got some ragging going on. As of last week or last 3 days or so, I've got ragging going on, so I need to get down there and clean that sensor. But it does allow you to see the data that's been stored in the meter that you downloaded on your device, in this case, your laptop, and you can see how that signal looks. Now, unfortunately, during my presentation of the live data, I've got a meter sitting on my desk. It's just flatline. It's just an ultrasonic shooting on the floor, mainly just so I could log in. I'm going to just show you how some things work. But I wanted to show you this screen here to show you, some more of the razzle dazzle of how those graphs really can pop instead of just seeing straight lines. Finally, there's a number of reports or programming reports that you can pull up. So each one of these in the background, you can see I have system information, DuraTracker. When you open this, you can actually drop these open or expand all of them. This is what it looks like when they're expanded open. It gives you some information as far as, in this case, the DuraTracker serial number, what version of firmware it's running, what type of sensor I have hooked up to it, all of its modem information. This is basically everything I set up in the configure. I set up my alarms, my data push, all that information. Down below, I've got my data storage readings. I have them set for 15 minutes in this case. What I have my flow rate, my partial flume, all that information is stored here. This is nice. You can get to this also when you're not connected to the meter. So when you get back to the office, you can open it up. You can go here. You can see how your meter's set up. With that being said, everything I've showed you here are basically the screens that are available to you. I am going to go ahead and set up a live demonstration now. I'm going to switch out of here. And pull up Flowlink Go, Flowlink Cipher Go. All right, one thing I want to point out though, I am currently not connected to the meter, but I did connect to it earlier. With that being said, not being connected to the meter, I do have this site information option here. By clicking on this, while these 3 points, this is connection options, they are on the previous screen, that's under here as well. The thing I wanted to show you is I have the ability to view my site data quickly. Now, again, this isn't going to be great because I just don't have a lot of live data here, but I can view what I downloaded earlier in my meter. Go ahead and just view it all. The battery voltage I have in here, because I do have a lot of that in the meter. The level and flow rate is going to not be real spectacular, but and you can see here, I can choose up to a maximum of 3. I've chosen these 3 in particular, but I do have all the available ones down here if I want to pull them up and remove another. Once I have the 3 selected I want, I hit view, and it will show me. Now my voltage here is nice. I can actually see some stuff. I actually have the meter off here, but you can see I have some readings stored in the meter. And I got some red lines and magenta lines over on the far left of a little bit of data that I had stored in the meter, but it's not as pretty as what I had on the previous screen in the PowerPoint. But the idea here is to show you that you can actually see the data and you don't have to be connected to the meter. As long as you downloaded the data, there is a quick, easy way of looking at the graphed data. without being connected to it. A lot like Flowlink, when you get back to the office, I'm not connected to the meter, I just want to view the data I have. And you can do that by viewing your local data, meaning it has been downloaded. All those reports I showed you on that last screen of the PowerPoint is also here. So here I have all that information. Again, I'm offline, but I have all that data available to me. That's all here on this program report screen. Additionally, then I can also export that data out. That allows me to send it out to a CSV or a DDP file or a Flowlink file, so I can bring it into Flowlink if I want. And if I want to delete the data on my local database, I can do that by hitting that. Getting back to the main screen though, again, these are just repeated. And I can delete, by the way, I can actually delete this site completely from my database on my laptop by hitting this little trash can here. Okay, so a little diversion there with the site information button. But typically when you log in, you want to connect to your meter. You're going to hit connect to device, and you're going to choose Bluetooth to the DuraTracker, a cellular connection to the DuraTracker. Again, if I send it a text message and it sent me back its IP address, I could use my cellular connection to, well, my internet connection on my laptop or phone or tablet, and it could go out to the cellular connection on the DuraTracker itself. Here I've got it local, so I'm just going to use USB. I do have it connected. It's showing me all the COM ports I have available. Obviously, it's COM port 6. It's the only one I have. I hit connect, and it's now go ahead and it's going to direct connect to the DuraTracker I have here in my office. Once that's connected up, you're going to see very familiar screens that I showed you at the beginning of the PowerPoint, where I'm going to have the 3 options across the bottom. The first one being the site screen is going to be selected, and that's going to allow me to go ahead and see all the information like setting the clock and the site name. So here we are. Now this is going to update here a second. It's going out and reading the meter. It did check my computer time, and there they are. They're matched up. I got my site name here. I can change this, but by default, all DuraTrackers use the serial number with the DuraTracker site behind it. And the idea of that is so we don't have any name conflicts. The signature is a good example. All signatures come out and say signature meter. Well, the problem when you visited, we always try to tell people to change that, but when they don't, it becomes a problem when people go out to visit their sites, and then they all have the same name. So with the DuraTracker, we fix that by saying, let's go ahead and get the serial numbers in front of every site name. Furthermore, if the time and date stamps don't match, I can hit synchronize here. And as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, the longitude, latitude information is available to me here. I can make that a little bigger. Again, though, these do not upload to Cipher at this time, but will in the future. Okay, I'm going to jump over to configure now. Again, we're making the assumption we're setting this meter up for the very first time. And again, I covered all these screens in the PowerPoint, and the idea here is I can just show you, I just want to show you how easy it is to get around the software, how quick it is. By diving into the PowerPoint and showing you all the screens first, now I can just kind of, razzle dazzle you with all the, how quickly this thing works, and basically just clicking on the button. So a Teledyne sensor, you click on here, it shows the sensor I have. If I want to remove it, I hit the negative, the minus, it'll remove it. If I have more sensors, I can hit this, it'll scan them in. If I want to set anything as far as calibration and whatnot, that's under here. So here under my level, I can actually calibrate my level. Right now I got it set for about 6 inches. I can choose the different types of units of measure that I want. I can set up different type of, if I have other measurements like 2 ultrasonics or 2 AV sensors right next to each other, I can make them so they prevent crosstalk. I can put my blanking distances in. I can change my units of measure under my temperature and my ultrasonic signal. I can enable or disable that. So all that information, if I want to see my distance reading, its units of measure, it's listed here as well. And if I want to have that enabled, all that is under the TiNet device screen. So I can collapse them all, expand them all. This is my diagnostic screen. Also, I can click on this. This is actually going to go out and it's going to ping the sensor. This is going to be a live reading that's happening right now. This should be pretty good because it's, again, sitting pointing at the floor. And I'll get that nice graph that shows my minimum and maximum blanking distances as well as the echo bounces. So here's some noise here that's very typical of ultrasonics at the beginning here. I've got my minimum blanking distance blocking that out. I've got my nice peak here off my floor or surface of the water. And I have my maximum blanking distance way out here, which I could move that in if I need to. So there's a live diagnostics reading there. And all of that is right there in the TiNet sensor. The next thing you're going to want to do after you scan your TiNet sensor and set up your units of measure, make sure it's working with your diagnostics, is you're going to go ahead and set up your flow rate. Now, if I have more than one sensor, I'll have more than one flow rate listed here. But I have one sensor, so I have one flow rate. Opening this up, I have everything I need to know about, this is my current reading right now that I'm getting from putting in a partial flume, a 1 foot partial flume. If I did have multiple sensors and I had multiple flow rates, I can tell which flow rate goes to what sensor. So with this drop down, I do actually have 2 levels with an ultrasonic sensor. I have my distance, which is the space between the bottom of the sensor and the surface of the water, so it's that airspace. So obviously I wouldn't want to use that here for my level input, but the point is I do have 2 level options, so that's why it's given those to me. But if I did have an AV sensor or a laser, I can pick what I want this flow rate to track, choosing those levels and velocities from those drop downs. So I can set those up, which flow rate goes to what sensor. Pretty simple on that. Total flow is the same thing. Again, showed you on the last screen here, total flow. I can set all that information up. There's which flow rate, A, B, or C do I want? The next screen is the data storage screen. This is going to allow you to go in and set up your data storage rates. The top half is everything that the DuraTracker records. So the DuraTracker calculates total flow and flow rates. So that's why they're up here at the top. So let's say I do flow rate. Down below is stuff the sensor, it's raw data, so I want to record level. Clicking on the storage settings, this all looks pretty familiar. You can drop down, I want it every 15 minutes. If you wanted a secondary storage rate, you can set that up down below, and there you can do an equation. You can click here, you can go ahead and add an equation, run through all that. But that's if you want a secondary storage rate. Otherwise, most will just leave that off. But you got your primary is at 15 minutes. We'll apply that. So it's going to set that flow rate and level to 15 minutes for me. And then you go back. The modem screen, as we mentioned in the PowerPoint, this is where I'm going to set up everything about the modem. So here's my provider, and I did cover this earlier. So this is just kind of showing you it's easy to get to, it's easy to see, put stuff in. You got your phone number, your IP address. There's your interval. Again, covered most of that in the PowerPoint. Just kind of showing you through the screens here. Data push, again, showed you in the PowerPoint. This is pushing every 4 hours. I got my IP address to my server and its port. I can manually data push, as I discussed. Bluetooth, now what the Bluetooth does, it does allow me to set up a time range of when I want the Bluetooth to turn on. Now, typically, people would use the SMS or text to send a Bluetooth message to the meter, and at the top of the hour, it would turn the Bluetooth on for 20 minutes, just like it does the modem. However, if I wanted to, I could set up an equation to set up the Bluetooth to turn on a timetable. So here I can do an added condition, and we have a timetable here. So I can actually go in and say, turn the Bluetooth on specific times of days, or maybe every day between a certain time. But you know, obviously, this is a bad example. Maybe for an hour, we would keep it on there. But the whole idea here is I can set up any type of condition I want to turn the Bluetooth on. I can also have it set up if there was a threshold met or a rain event. But all that is tied to how the Bluetooth turns on and allows you to connect with the Bluetooth. Finally, the alarms, again, covered this in the PowerPoint. I can have up to 4 different alarms. I can tell it when I want it to trigger. There's my 2 alarm types. I have an SMS alarm. If I choose that, I have the message I want in the SMS. Now, again, when you set the message on this, this is what's going to show up on your phone. So be sure to put your site name in the message. So, you know, 4th and Main, high flow, and then you'd have your trigger alarm set for a high flow condition with your equation. But make sure you put the site name in the message. I get a lot of people who forget to do that, and then they get a message, high flow, but they have no idea what site it goes to because they don't have all the phone numbers in their phone. Nonetheless, once you got the message in there, you can put up to 5 different contacts. And again, these are alarms coming straight from the DuraTracker. Now, if I want to force the DuraTracker to push to Cipher or Flowlink Pro, I can choose server. Now, this IP address is all from the data push screen. So it's grabbing that IP address I had set up in the data push screen and populating it here. The notification group is for Flowlink Pro users. There are different notification groups you can send to Flowlink Pro, and that's how it knows who to send messages to what contacts. Now, Cipher doesn't care about that, so it doesn't care about the notification group, and it really doesn't care about the message in the server, because in Flowlink Cipher, it's literally, you're just saying, when this trigger happens, force a push to Flowlink Cipher. That way, Cipher has the baton, it can take it and run with it and get those alarms sent out based on what you have set up in Cipher. So that's all the configure. Went through those pretty quick. Again, covered a little more on the PowerPoint, but just want to show you how easy it is to jump in and out of these screens. A little brief overview of what each of them do. Finally, again, once it's all configured, the analysis screen is typically, when you're on site after a deployment or you're revisiting the site. Now, this is going to be live data for my meter I have here at my desk, and so I got a flat level because, again, it's really not water moving, but I do have a corresponding flow rate with the flume I have set up. I can retrieve data. I can go ahead and retrieve data since last. Shouldn't be a lot in here because I did retrieve a few minutes ago. I did have some 1 minute data in there trying to get some stuff, and then I recently, as you saw with here, we changed it to 15 minutes. Basically, you're just going to hit the type of data, the amount of data you want to grab. You hit the retrieve data. Right now, it's going out and grabbing a DDP file from the DuraTracker, and it's going to import that into Cipher GO. Now, this is the data that will be that'll be available to you on the next screen when we view the local data. All right. So retrieving the data here brings it into the database. To see that data, not only did it retrieve that data, but it also brought in the program report and the local data. So let's just look at the program report real quick. Again, showed you this in the PowerPoint, but it just shows you all the meter information, how it's set up. Now it's set for 15 minutes, ultrasonic distance, level, I have them set for 15 minutes. So I can see all those program settings. The cool stuff though is when you go to look at local data. Here I can choose how much data I want to look at. Again, unfortunately, I just don't have a lot of data in here. I'm going to go ahead and choose since this time. I can pick my 3 points as I showed you previously. I can remove them and add them here, and I hit view. Again, level and velocity, or level and flow rate, not real spectacular here because it's on a lot of data, but the voltage is nice. So I do have something here. But again, that's why I wanted to have that screenshot in the PowerPoint to kind of show you something a little prettier. And then finally, we have the ability to export the data out via Cipher. It will export it directly to Cipher from here. Using the data information that was in the data push, it'll basically send that to Cipher, or I can export that out as a CSV. The last two options are really house cleaning. If you want to delete any of the local data you did during retrieve data, you have that option here. And then finally, you can actually wipe out all the sensor information if you want to get a clean start. With that being said, that is pretty much everything I've got for Flowlink Cipher GO. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at iscowatersupport@teledyne.com. Also visit any of our social media sites with the QR codes at the bottom.
Well, Dennis, we're going to open it up for the questions that are coming in. Do you have time to answer those today?
Yeah, I can answer a few questions.
Okay, well, with that, you can go ahead and start with the first. I do see there have been a few submitted, so continue entering any other questions into the questions function within GoToWebinar, and we will respond. Thank you.
Okay, the first question is, do we have a timeline for the portable devices? Right now, we do not. Currently, again, it is available for the PC. We are developing it for the iOS, which is Apple devices, and Android devices. Those are the two devices that we will be supporting with Cipher GO. Okay, the next question, how will you get them? Okay, so once those applications are released, we will actually have them in their corresponding app stores. So for Apple, you would go to the Apple Store and you would type in Flowlink Cipher GO, and that will pull it up, which you'll be able to download it again. These will be free of charge downloads in those apps. And then you'll use the Google Store as well for your Android devices. The next one is based about talk about the tablets. Is there going to be any restrictions on the type of tablets or memory? You know, guys, right now I just don't have a lot on the portable app yet. But the idea is if it's going to work with Apple, then obviously any up-to-date Apple devices, obviously we're not going to be able to go back to like the iPad 2 or anything like that. But anything that's been released from those manufacturers at the time of deployment, those will be compatible. So if you have a up-to-date, you know, if you're still getting apps from the App Store on your devices, then this app will be compatible with that. Yeah, okay, so the next question here is, can you access Cipher to see the data as well instead of having to do it locally? So yeah, if you have your portable device, whether it's your laptop or if at the time when we had the phones and tablets, you're going to be able to basically, what's nice about Cipher, this is more of a Cipher question than it is a Cipher Go, but that's okay. The Cipher, basically you're going to be able to access Cipher remotely on the same device, whether it's a phone or a tablet. So you'll be able to log into your Cipher. And then yes, if you do the manual push in the DuraTracker and you watch that little window, it shows the progress going by, you'll be able to log into Cipher and view that data once it pushes up. So that's going to be nice for you to verify it actually got to Cipher. Not only that little box where you hit manual push, but you'll be able to log into Cipher remotely and see the data actually there. Also, if you have people back at the office, you can contact them and say, hey, look, the data's there ready for you. If you want to go ahead and start working on it, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next site. Okay, so the next one is about the contact, the ISCO water support. So yes, we have the email here, but if you do have more questions, you don't have to use the email. I mean, you can call our support line. All of us in our product support is up to date on how Cipher Go works, so we'll be able to answer any questions when you're in the field. The next question here is there any plans to do a direct connect with the phone or tablet? No, the problem is there's really not a good connection cable. The DuraTracker uses the USB connection on the front panel. I'm sure there might be some sort of, you know, clobbered device cabling intermixing of trying to get things to connect to the bottom connection of your phone. But no, we do plan on sticking with the Bluetooth support. So in the future, we can use the Bluetooth with the laptop now. And of course, we can still use the cellular connection, but the USB is going to be really just for the laptops. Cabling for the portable devices just isn't going to be something that's going to be available. So we're going to be doing Bluetooth. Okay, so the next question is because I mentioned that the newer devices are going to be compatible with this, are they going to have Bluetooth? Yes, they will. So from here on out, we have basically mandated that any new equipment that's going to be Cipher Go compatible is going to have Bluetooth compatibility, because that's going to be our main connection with our portable devices. So that's a main reason why the Signature, the 2100s are not going to be supported by Flowlink Go. Right now, technically, could the laptop connect to those? Sure, because we have a cable. But really, for the longevity of Flowlink Go and its future, we would not have a way to make those compatible on the portable devices with things like the 2100 and Signature, where you need to have that connect cable plugged into it. So we just have the Bluetooth. I suppose another workaround other than the Bluetooth would be a modem. If you have a modem, not everybody has modems on Signatures, and not everybody have modems on 2100s. I can say everybody has a modem with a DuraTracker, because all DuraTrackers are sold with modems. But really, guys, we have no intention on making this legacy. Go is kind of, we still have Flowlink available for those other legacy devices like the Signature, the 2100s, but Go is a go from this time on with all the products from the DuraTracker moving forward. So we will have Bluetooth connect. Back to the main question, will our new devices have Bluetooth? And I can positively tell you, yes, they will. So that way they are going to be compatible with Go. I think that's going to give me all the time I have. I don't want to keep you guys all too long. I kind of ran out of my time here. If you have more questions or I didn't get to your question, please send them to the email listed here. Or if you want to reach me, directly call our support line, ask for Dennis McGinnis. Be happy to work with you, or yeah, just go through your regular channels of getting questions to us, and we will get back to you and answer questions that you have. Sharon, I'll give you the closing comments.
Well, thank you, Dennis, for sharing your expertise on this subject. And I would like to thank all of our attendees for joining us today. As mentioned earlier, the webinar has been recorded and the video will be made available to you in the near future. If you need any further support, please contact ISCO Water Support at teledyne.com, and they always are happy to help you. So with that, I will close, and we hope to see you again next time. Thank you.